Claudine Hemingway is a descendant of famed writer Ernest Hemingway. We bumped into each other at a party and decided to team up and dive deep into French history, but with a twist, by bringing a spotlight to those lesser-known creatives in France. This is History with a Hemingway.
Welcome back to Paris History Avec a Hemingway. I'm back with Claudine, and today we're talking about the Bazar de la Charities. And if you're like me, you know maybe nothing about this, but Claudine is going to inform us about what seems to be a pretty tragic event from what Claudine has told me.
It is. And you might actually know a little something more than you think if you watched a show from Netflix.
Which one?
It's called, well, in the show on Netflix, it's called Bonfire of the Vanity, I think is what it was called. And it came Bonfire Destiny, and it came out in 2019.
I never watched it. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'll tell you about that at the end. But the Bazar of the Charities, it was something that they did. It started back in 1885. And we're going to talk about this one. We're going to talk about the specific one that happened on May 4th, 1897. So for years, this group of charities, this is how they would come together. You'd have all these different charities, and they would do this big event that would go for usually 4 to 5 days. And that event would have, it was a place for all these other small charities to get together and, promote themselves and all that. But it was really also just a way for like the elites of society, most of which were always women, could go and attend and, hang out and hobnob with everybody. And I'm sure, look down on the little people.
Okay.
So the one in 1897 would end in a bit of a disaster. Well, a big disaster. Henri Blount was a wealthy son of Edward Charles Blount, who was a former member of the parliament and banker who invested in the railway, which brought him a humongous fortune. Along with the Baron de Macot, who was the son of the Minister of the Navy. He owned a bunch of land around the city, which they would use they would donate for this charity, the charities to set up. The first bazaar was held in 1885 on the Rue de Faubourg Saint-Honoré. They did it again there in 1887. In 1888, 1890, and 1896, it was on the Rue de la Boîte. And we've talked about that street before because that is where Paul Rosenberg had his amazing gallery when that was everything was taken by the Germans in World War II. And in 1889, it was at the Place Vendôme. On March 20th, 1897, Baron Armand de Macot gave up his 263 feet long pine structure that was located on the Rue Jean Goujon in the 8th arrondissement, just kind of coming right off of there of the quay, where the Statue of Liberty torch is.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of everybody just calls now the Princess Diana monument. It's just that Jean Goujon is the street just comes off of that. Yeah, and Jean Goujon was a artist that did the wonderful caryatides that are in the Louvre, and he was a amazing artist back during the Renaissance. But it was just there in the 8th arrondissement, and then keep in mind that what I said, this was a pine structure when we get into it. On April 6, 1897, the leaders of the charities came together to discuss the event. There was the Duchess of Alençon and also of Bavaria. There was Henriette of Belgium, who was a niece of King Leopold II, and the Duchess de Duez, gathering together 22 charities that met inside a structure that was created with a large central area surrounded by small counters for each of the organization. And each booth was able to hold 22 or about 24 ladies.
Oh, wow.
24 ladies. So pretty good size. I mean, I did events for 23 years, and that's a massive size of a booth.
Yeah.
The 1897 event was going to include this new technology at the time, a lot then known as the cinematograph by Auguste and Louis Lumière. The very first film was 50 seconds in length, and it debuted on March 22nd, 1885, but it was not seen by the public until that December, before the brothers took their movies around the world, going to Europe, all over Europe, New York, London, Buenos Aires, everywhere, and it caused an international sensation. You know that it's the very famous one where it's the moon And then the moon, it's all, of course, in black and white. And then this, it looks like a bullet goes into the eye.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are some of the very, very first moving pictures. And they were 50 seconds. I mean, this wasn't, it wasn't a feature length film.
Yeah.
At the event, they were going to have 3 short films run after another showing La Sortie de l'usine Lumière du Lion, L'arrivée de Tron, and La Ruse Arose. And those were just going to be played back to back. On May 30th, 1887, the Bazar was opened. It opens its doors, and at 4 p.m., the Monsignor Eugenio Chiari blessed the event, and 1,600 people flooded into the small space.
Oh, wow.
The first day was really crowded, but the attendees were having a lovely time. There was games and everything, and watching the movie, and everyone was very excited about it. On May 4th, 1897, almost 24 hours later, about 1,200 people were there, mostly men, a few children, and even a few men as well. When the projector was installed, it was placed into this small little room that didn't have much ventilation. And this was the 19th century. So, when you think of movies now and the fact that, you could watch one on your phone.
Yeah.
It's a much different, like these things were massive projectors. And there was a lamp in there. It was called the Molteni lamp. And it had to run on ether, it would burn ether. And so after an hour, it had to be refilled. So it's playing back to back. And then, but surrounding this area where the projector was, it was like in this little room bit with all this canvas curtains hanging around it. And so, but they were told to always leave it closed so the people didn't see the projector. So they had to refill the ether, and it was really dark. So Monsieur Belloc asked for some light so he could pour the ether. And at 4:15 p.m. that day, Gregoire Bagchot used a match to give Belloc a bit of light. And as soon as the match was lit, the vapors from the ether caught fire and ignited the canvas curtains.
Oh man, what a nightmare.
Yeah, not the smartest move to think that, but I'm sure they didn't know that was going to happen.
Oh my gosh.
Moments later, the Duchesse d'Alençon began to cough, and they could smell smoke in the air. The pine structure with canvas walls and thin wooden tables was a tinder box. It burned very, very quickly. Small explosions were heard as the gas lights ignited and popped. And within 12 minutes, the entire structure was engulfed in flames.
What the heck? Oh my gosh.
So this, when you could go to, there's nothing obviously left at the spot where this was at. And I'll tell you what it is there. But it was just this kind of very long building. And it wasn't, it wasn't even that deep. And then you went in there was basically 2 doors on the street, and they weren't huge doors. These aren't like, the grand, Hotel Particuliers with their big, huge doors for carriages. Like these were more like normal sized doors that we see today.
Wow.
And it just was, of course, everybody was in a panic. And so women and children were crawling and screaming and trying to get out. The few men that were there were eyewitness reports later about the men that had just basically pushed women aside in a panic and basically stepped over them to get out.
This is horrible.
Horrible. When the firemen arrived, which was about over 420 firemen came, there was little that they could do because the entrance was so jammed with people, including those that were like lying underneath it, underneath people stepping over them that had already died.
What a terrible scene.
It's just like, it's horrible. It's horrible. This was 1897. So also think about the clothing at the time. So women's dresses had big hoops and petticoats and endless layers of ruffles, all of which ignited just as quickly as the canvas curtains.
Yeah.
So these women, it's just the horror of, I have just a huge fear of dying in a fire. Who doesn't?
Oh my God.
But you could just like, you can't even like, and then you see, when you watch old movies and stuff, or like even in Gone with the Wind, when they're trying to get her in or out of her corset, there's no way these women could just be like, I'm taking this off and pulling it off my body so I could run out. Like it would be impossible. Once their clothes started to just be engulfed in flames, that was it.
That's insane. Oh my gosh, it sounds so terrifying.
Yeah, horrible. The back side of the building, there were a few small windows that led into a courtyard. The windows were kind of higher. So there's this one woman, and I was reading when I was doing research, and they said she was rather large, which I was like, well, that's not nice. But I think she was maybe rather tall because she was basically using her height to hoist women up to basically crawl through this window to get out.
Oh, so the women actually helped each other.
The
and
women were helping each other. The men weren't so great. There was only like, maybe 24 men in the whole place. It was all women.
Wow.
In the back, at the Hotel du Palais, which is where a cook was working, he assisted in pulling over 175 victims through the kitchen windows, while he could hear were screams coming from the building.
Oh my God, so scary.
And then within an hour, people were running back in to see if they could save people. Women were there sometimes with their maids, and they had their children there, and the maids, like the women were helping the maids. Like everybody was trying to help everybody else to get out,
Yeah.
except for the guys.
Except for the guys.
But it was like, everybody, it was like actual panic. And if you watch the show on Netflix, that part of it is very accurate to everything I've read about it. The rest of the series is all made up people. It's not the people, the characters in the show are not based on anybody that really died in there.
Yeah.
But it is pretty horrible to watch the first episode when this actually happens. The Duchess of Alençon, she says when she was as one of the main organizer of the event, she was married to the grandson of Louis Philippe, who was the former king of France. And she remained inside trying to save ladies. A nun had fallen and was helped by the Duchess and was heard saying, "Oh, Madame, what a death." And the Duchess responded, "Yes, but in a few moments we will see God." And those were her last words.
Oh my gosh.
From somebody that heard her.
Wow, that's so sad.
It's horrible. Sophie Charlotte of Bavaria, who was the Duchess of Alençon, she was born on February 23rd, 1847. Her father was Maximilian of Bavaria, and her mom was the Duchess Ludwika de Bavaria of the House of the Wittelsbach in Germany. On September 22nd, 1868, she married Ferdinand d'Orléans, who was the Duke of Alençon, the youngest son of the Duc de Nemours. Prior to the Duke, she was engaged to King Louis II of Bavaria. And in 1867, she discovered he was gay and postponed the wedding.
Oh my gosh.
Which, was actually surprising because back then, that happened a lot. And it was like, nope, you just got to go with it. But this is later. This is 19th century.
Yeah.
When the war began in 1870, she and her husband and their family moved to Paris to 32 Avenue Friedland near the Arc de Triomphe. Once they moved to Paris, it was discovered that she had a steamy love affair with a gentleman named Edgar Havskell. She was sent to a sanatorium in Austria to tackle her sexual desires.
Wait, she sent her to the mental house because
she had an affair.
Oh my gosh.
And when I was doing research and I came across it 2 or 3 times, and I was cracking up because it's basically, that's how they said it was to tackle her sexual desires.
Oh, that's horrible. They put her in a mental institute.
I know. So for 5 months, she was left alone to become the lady she was supposed to be, but she returned to Paris in January 1897, just a few months before her death. Once the fire was controlled, the grisly job of moving and identifying the victims began. The nearby Palais d'Industrie off the Champs-Élysées was used for the 126 bodies that were recovered.
Gosh, it must have been so hard to even know who was who.
It's horrible. 118 of them were women.
Wow.
Yeah. Another 250 were injured, many with disfiguring burns that they, of course, would never recover from. The Duchess of Alençon was found burned in the arms of the Viscountess de Beauchamp. She was identified by the gold fillings in her mouth. but many families weren't as lucky. A majority of the victims were burned beyond identification. Among the wealthy elite women, there were also 6 nuns that died, 6 children between the ages of 4 and 10, 5 men, and many young girls, mostly between 20 and 24 years old.
Oh my gosh, they were so young.
So young. It's so sad. Another notable victim included Camille Moreau-Neloton, and we have never talked about him, but I am trying to find more about Etienne Moreau-Neloton because his insanely huge collection of art makes up a lot of stuff in the Louvre and the Orsay, and I'm obsessed with him and trying to find more information out about him. But then when I came across this name, I was like, oh my gosh, and it's his mother. She was actually an artist. She took drawing lessons from Auguste Bonheur, who was the brother of Rosa Bonheur, who we've talked about, which that also I was super excited to see. She went on to become a ceramic artist and a painter and exhibited at the Salon between 1865 to 1881.
Oh, wow.
And which is awesome because, how those, the women don't always get to be represented that way. In 1858, she married Adolphe Moreau-Neloton, who was the son of the personal surgeon to Napoleon III.
Wow.
Adolphe was an avid collector of art and passed the love to his son, Etienne Moreau-Neloton. And there is a painting of Adolphe that Etienne had in his collection that's hanging in the Louvre. And I always love to go up and visit those rooms. His collection included a ton of Delacroix, and like 3 rooms in the Louvre are all his paintings, and they're just filled with paintings. And then some of the most famous pieces of the Orsay, including Manet's Déjeuner sur l'herbe, Monet's Déjeuner sur l'herbe, Fantin-Latour's Homage to Delacroix, and a bunch of other ones were all from his collection.
That's so cool. I love that.
Very cool. Camille was attending with her daughter-in-law, the wife of Etienne, Edmé, Brant Moreau-Neloton. Both women were killed in the fire. Etienne never married again and mourned his mother and wife the rest of his life.
Oh, that's so sad.
So sad. Another lady was the Viscountess Bonvais, who was Marie de Quesnay. She was able to escape the fire, but ran back inside to save her friend, but was overpowered by the flames and died. Her husband was able to identify her body by her jewelry. Jeanne de Carigny, who was the Countess of Saint-Périer, helped other women escape as well through a high window. This was the one that was said that she was a large woman because she was able to hoist people up and they could stand on her back.
A large woman.
Yeah, I know. I was like, that's just not nice at all. After the event, around Paris, there was just endless streams of funerals and processions to many of the cemeteries, and it lasted for weeks. So a few of the churches over in the 8th, they even have plaques dedicated to this, to just the small plaques that are dedicated to this actual event. Days after the fire, the Baron bought the property and gave it to the city with the intention of building a memorial for the victims. Cardinal Richard, who was the cardinal that presided on May 8th, 1897 at the national funeral that was held in Notre Dame de Paris. It was presided over by him, and President Félix Faure, who was there, who we talked about when we talked about a few weeks ago about Marguerite Steinal. She was the one that might have killed her husband and mother, but then also was pleasuring the president when he had an aneurysm and died.
Yeah.
And Felix thought she was there. And I mentioned this when we did that podcast. He thought she was at the Bazar, but she in the end decided not to go that day, thankfully.
Thankfully.
Yeah. Exactly 1 year to the day, on May 4th, 1898, the first stone was laid. They had basically, whatever had been the burnt remains that were left of the Bazar were completely razed to the ground. And then they built the Chapel of Atonement. It was inaugurated 2 years after that, on May 4th, 1900, inaugurated in the memory of the victims. More than 86,000 items are in the church that were pulled from the burned remains. There's a little chapel there that's dedicated just to the family. And back in February, when I was doing research, I wanted to go there. So one day I got over there, and because it looked on the website, it said, the hours it was open, but it's really you could only go in there on the first Tuesday of the month.
Ah, lame.
So I'm really bummed out because I was really wanting to get in there so I could take some photos, but I'll try in June.
Very good.
On February 28th, 1899, the city of Paris also created a monument to the unrecognized victims in the 92nd Division of Père Lachaise. The funeral of the Duchesse was held at the Saint-Philippe de Rouet, which is a church on the Rue de Faubourg Saint-Honoré. It's just a few blocks down from the Élysée Palace. After that, her coffin was taken to the Chapel of Saint Louis in Dreux, which is where all the members of the Orleans family are buried. And I've come across it a lot lately in other things I'm doing research on. And I really want to go down there and check it out, but it's only open to visit in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it'd be really cool. But a lavish tomb was made for her. It was created by Louis Ernest Barrier, who has done also a lot of statues and monuments in Paris. It depicted her basically lying in her, full marble, basically wearing a very fancy dress like she would have been wearing that day, and lying there around just pieces of the burnt beams.
Oh.
And so people are a little too shocked. And so it was moved into the Musée des Beaux-Arts in Dreux, and then was replaced with a new tomb by Charles Albert Wallam in 1912. Some of the beams are still visible, but now the Duchesse is laying there kind of, in a very simple outfit, clutching a cross to her chest.
Yeesh.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a little morbid, I think,
Yeah.
considering how she died. But in 2019, as I mentioned at the start, Netflix premiered this 8-episode series called The Bazar of the Charity. The Bonfire of the Destiny is a U.S. title, and it has one of my favorite French actresses, Audrey Fleurot, who's this beautiful redhead that if you've ever watched the show, The French Village, I think it was like 7 seasons. She was in that show as well. And that was all about one French village that was kind of near the Alps, where it starts with it right before World War II, and then all the seasons go throughout the war. And it's really fascinating because gives you a different look of what different people in the town, what they, had to do. Her character has a affair with a horrible, horrible Nazi.
Oh, no.
But she's still amazing. I love her. And she's been in a bunch of other shows. And one day I was taking clients into Angelina on the Rue de Rivoli. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's her. She was in front of us. And she's very short. And I was like, maybe it's not her. And she pulled out her Louis Vuitton wallet. And it had her initials on it. And I was like, yep, that's her.
Had her initials on it.
But she's amazing. She's just absolutely great. She actually was in a scene in Midnight in Paris. The first time the car comes up to pick up Gil, there's like 4 people in the car, and she's one of them. And I guess her part was actually bigger, and part of it was cut.
Oh, yeah. I have seen some of the cut versions of that movie, and there was a lot more of them talking in the car.
Yeah. And she is gorgeous, and she's just amazing. And she's, does great dramatic pieces, but then she's also hilarious. She did this other show called HPI, where she's like, insanely smart and can see and remember everything. And she's like a cleaner, like an office cleaner of the police station, and basically leaves all these notes saying, oh no, this person didn't do it, this person did, that she could see that just from looking at photos.
What?
Yeah, it's really I saw it on a plane once, and now I'm like, how do I watch all the other episodes? But the TV show of this event is really good. I mean, as I said, the characters in it are fictional. They're not based on any of the real people that died.
Yeah.
But it is if you just watch the first episode to see how what happens with the fire, it is really it's pretty horrific. And I can't even imagine, the stampede of people and that many people trying to get out. And it just looks
your worst nightmare. That's why I never go to the Bastille Day fireworks, because I'm always like, if something went down, like you would just get stampeded with all these people around.
Yeah, and I was talking to somebody about that even with the Louvre. I mean, the Louvre does have like tons of emergency exits, but if you were in like, the Denon wing where the Mona Lisa is and something happened, if there was a fire or something, it would be so difficult. That's where I'm going to be really glad that I know where all of these like somewhat secret staircases
Yeah.
are.
Follow Claudine, guys.
Yeah, make sure, book a tour with me of the Louvre just in case
Yeah,
something
he knows the
happens.
security, safety parts.
But it is, I mean, that is because like you just think of that panic. I mean, who wouldn't panic in that situation?
Yeah, and then people, it's just every man for themselves.
And this structure was like so haphazardly put together and just, pieces of wood and just the whole entire thing was just a tinderbox.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
And just it was so sad how many people died.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'll be watching that show. I think it's too depressing for me. I can't handle
Well, I mean, it is actually like you watch and there's different characters. Like there's one girl that does survive, but she thinks her maid died in it, but then she didn't. And it is interesting to watch because then it's like you see somebody going to the morgue, and this woman is like, she sees that her daughter's one of the ones that's dead, and she realizes it's her because of the jewelry she's wearing. She takes the ring off and then sees this other woman that is alive and is just like, burned and in horrible pain. She puts a ring on her and pretends that's her daughter.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, it's just, I mean, it is kind of interesting. I mean, that's kind of horrific because this woman's like, I'm married and have a kid. But she's like, I'm old and I'm dying. And if you do this, I'll give you all my money.
Wow.
And but I mean it's good and it's interesting. And if there's that other new series on Netflix about the French Resistance, the women that were like, a lot of them were working in brothels.
Oh, I haven't heard
what they did. And I started watching that and it was hilarious because like I swear like 10 of the same exact actors are in it.
What's the name of that one?
I think it's called The Women of the Resistance. And
Okay.
Audrey's in that one too.
And it's here in
Yeah.
Paris?
Yeah, it's a French one.
Oh,
But
well,
you could see it's also on American Netflix. You just or either do the subtitles or dub it over in
because I've
English.
been watching Transatlantic. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I need to see that one too.
Yeah, I just didn't realize how many Jewish people that the French were giving up. I mean, they were just handing them over. They were treating them
Oh
like,
yeah. I mean, we did talk about saving the Louvre, and we should do a whole bunch of them just about that because it's, and just recently when we did an episode and I talked about the Val de Verre, which used to be over by the Eiffel Tower, and it was the French that basically sent these people saying, oh, here's this thing, you need to come here to, Tuesday to this building.
yeah.
And that's how they round them up. And so every year they do a little thing there on like the Sunday closest to that day, and the president's always there. And I think it was Jacques Chirac was the first to recognize like this is on the this blood is on the hands of the French people.
Yeah.
And then and President Macron got even more real about the situation, saying, we have to look, that they need to look at that as this is how they were culpable in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. Because the whole thing was just like, when you watch the show, you're like, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. I mean, then that goes back even further. I mean, I've come doing, history research. There's been 2 or 3 times in French history that they've basically persecuted the Jews and kicked them out and everything else. I mean,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, guys, make sure you check out ClaudineHemingway.com and tune in next week for our next episode.
Thanks for listening today, guys. If you're interested in learning more about Claudine, her tours, history, and the beautiful photographs that she posts all over Instagram, tune into her website, ClaudineHemingway.com.